There has oddly been a bit of a rush of snowboarding and ski video games to release in the past few months. Riders Republic from Ubisoft came out at the end of last year, which isn't just snowboarding, but I've really enjoyed my time with it. Just last week, Shredders released to next-gen platforms, also focusing on snowboarding in a more arcadey style. But perhaps lost in the shuffle is Grand Mountain Adventure Wonderlands from the three-brother team Top Luva AB out of Sweden. The Switch version, which has a Day 1 limited physical edition with stickers and a patch, came out earlier this week and actually has more aesthetically in common with the biking game Lonely Mountains Downhill, which I'll link to my review here, than it does with the other two snowboarding games that I mentioned. So let's see what exactly is Grand Mountain Adventure Wonderlands for the Nintendo Switch. In Grand Mountain Adventure Wonderlands, you'll be exploring a total of 12 mountains, each representing a different country, completing various ski or snowboarding challenges along the way. Progress is somewhat linear in the sense that you will only unlock the next of these 12 mountains once you've collected enough ski passes on the current one. Ski passes are awarded from finding them randomly scattered around the map, or from completing set challenges. Challenges are what you kind of might expect, featuring time trial races, slopestyle trick contests, slalom events, and other events similar to these. These are seamlessly triggered by simply skiing through the starting gate, and after one attempt you can replay any event you want, and can fast travel to said event as well, making the game somewhat of a high score fest to unlock the best medal or when you mess up, and hence the most ski passes to ultimately get to the next mountain. Outside of these events, it's a bit of a sandbox game in that you are free to just kind of ski around the mountain to your heart's content, although it is helpful to pull out your map at times since it can be easy to get turned around when trying to find challenges. However, if you use the visual clues like tracks in the snow, then you can find some pretty cool runs on your own just kind of messing around. As you advance, you'll unlock ski lifts as well to take you up these mountains and ultimately to some new sections. Once you get to the top, you can ski from the summit to the base pretty seamlessly, and this freedom both in gameplay and its visuals was the highlight of the entire experience. That being said, there are plenty of challenges that can be quite difficult, particularly the harder expert rated challenges, and can take a ton of restarts to complete, adding in some rewarding gameplay elements to the package as well. While a free-roaming skiing game is not the most original concept, the game is by far the most unique in its presentation. The isometric camera angle is original to any snowboarding or skiing game that I've ever played, and is really only reminiscent of the extreme downhill biking game Lonely Mountains Downhill. This effect may be somewhat startling at first if you're expecting the camera to be behind the rider, but you'll quickly get used to this almost backwards angle. Because of this effect, the game really highlights the mountains themselves more so than your actual rider. It creates an almost snow globe or diorama effect when playing that I loved, and it's pretty cool to actually ride the ski lifts up the mountains as well, which is honestly something that never got old. It's ultimately less about the details on the trees and the buildings and more about the overall mountain and the feeling you get when playing. In terms of how the controls feel, the game is really simple to pick up. It just takes a few attempts to really get a feeling for how your snowboarder or skier rides. I should point out that there really is no difference between skiing and snowboarding, and there really isn't anything customizable to unlock. From the start, you have the equivalent of the best equipment, and so the incentives to keep playing is more about your skill set than trying to unlock additional equipment. Outside of the main game, there really isn't a ton of extras to point out. There is a multiplayer mode that I tested some and adds the ability to throw snowballs at your opponents, but the meat of the game is obviously in its single player mode. Something that I wish existed was an online leaderboard of sorts. It would be cool to be able to compare my runtimes to other players and would give me a bit more incentive to get a better score versus just trying to do enough to get more ski passes. This is something that the aforementioned Lonely Mountains does really well. Also, while the game does run as smooth as I could expect both undocked and docked, it lacks a bit of technical polish, being a pseudo expansion to the mobile game original, so the presentation and menu navigation is a bit wonky and takes some getting used to. For me, Grand Mountain Adventure Wonderlands ends up scoring a very respectable 81. I think it ends up being slightly more style than substance, with a few missed opportunities to really flesh out the experience, but it's still an excellent game to zone out to, and at its core, unique in almost every way, and a lovely addition to any Switch owner's library.